Hello, welcome. It's me, John. It's PVG, and I'm joined by my wonderful, wonderful friend, Freed.
The fraud one, the one and only. And to celebrate the overexposure of Orange Cassidy, tonight I'm drinking Blood Orange Radler.
Oh, I wish I had one of those.
Dude,
They look tasteful. They look very. I've got not blood orange water. It's drippy. It's delicious. It's hydrating. I wish I kind of had a Radler though. I'm going to do what you do. You have Radlers, and every week I look at the Radler and I'm going, I wish I had that Radler. That Radler's kind of that's a little bit it's a little bit cheeky. I want one of those, and I never have one. I'm always jealous of you, Freed. I'm jealous.
truth be told, I think I started the trend here. It's a meme now, and I have to keep doing it every Friday.
It's every Friday. It's not the Powerbotch Podcast, but a tasty Radler. But anyway, I think it's time for us to I don't know, maybe talk about AEW this week. What do you think, sir?
I think we should start with a bang and talk about Dynamite.
Oh God, damn. Well, I love it. I can't get enough of it, despite the fact that you keep hitting me with it. Oh, he keeps hitting me with it. But yes, oh my God. Do you want to take us through the first segment, my friend?
Yeah, show starts off with Cody Rhodes versus Sonny Kiss for the TNT title. Sonny Kiss's first big match on Dynamite. Obviously, he featured mostly on Dark, but now he's on the big stage, gets the title match, gets the big entrance with the cheerleaders dancing and all. And I actually don't want to focus on the match itself too much. It was a good TV match, nothing great. But what's interesting is Cody, his slow heel turn kind of continues, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning of the match, he dominates Sonny, and he doesn't like the cocky push-ups to show off, right?
Mm.
He shows a bit of a vicious, destructive side during the match. He throws Sonny at the ramp, then goes out, does this huge Alabama slam on the ramp. God, that looked painful. So much force behind it. And then in the ring, he even breaks out no, I can't say the original name on YouTube. A Gringo Buster. Let's go with the Gringo Buster. Obviously, very very dangerous move. Yeah.
Very.
The announcers keep saying that Cody's head isn't in the right mindset for this, right?
The big thing that I've noticed with this match as well was that Arn Anderson was so pissed off of him. Like, did you notice that? Like, Arn Anderson's like, get your head out of your ass. You know, really, was not like, did not like any of the cocky shit. Did not like any of the pomp and circumstance he was going for. And when he started doing that, there, Sonny got the advantage because he was playing up to that crap, and then suddenly it was like, oh no, I can't do that, and then he started doing those really aggressive ticks and those really heely moves. Like I know we've been kind of expecting a bit of a little bit of a heel turn here, but I think we're starting to finally see it. But one thing I do want to focus on ever so slightly, not in the match, who was in the stands again? Who was
Tully Blanchard?
Tully F-word Blanchard.
Dude, I have a lot of fantasy booking to do with that. Let's just wrap up the match to be done with that. Cody exposes the top turnbuckle to heal it up even more, right? But he eats it, gets back in the match, wins with the crossroads. That's cool. Let's get back to the Four Horsemen.
Yes.
Because we've been fantasy booking, or rather the internet has been fantasy booking Sean Spears, Cody Rhodes, FTR as the Four Horsemen. But what if it isn't Cody? What if it is Hangman Page? Because he's becoming all buddy with FTR there, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed as well. So we saw like a very deliberate amount of sort of passing friendship there. You definitely see this a little bit later in the show, where after the next match specifically, where we have the next match, I remember if I recall correctly, is the Lucha Bros and FTR match, where
Let me give you a little bit of fantasy booking. Allow me this.
Oh yeah, go for it. Drop it
Yeah,
on me.
we're building up to All In,
Mm.
and at All In, it will be FTR and Sean Spears are already in a faction by then, and they tease their fourth member, and everyone thinks, oh, it will be Cody, but then they come out with Hangman Adam Page, but then Cody is revealed to be also a member, and they become the 4 Horsemen. I called it weeks ago.
You know what? And you're not wrong in what you say, because I've been hearing people say that, like, I don't know to the validity of this, but apparently there has been more than 4 horsemen in the past in the group at any point, and I believe that was moments during AWA. There would have been actually 5 at one point, and then again in WCW with Mongo McMichaels, there was 5 at one point if you included all the members, because I think at one point it was like Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Arn Anderson, Mongo McMichaels, and then Ric Flair. So that was technically 5. So you're not wrong. It could do 5. I think it's really interesting.
But one of the storylines must be a red herring, because AEW loves doing this. Look back at the Exalted one.
Yeah. Where
they threw in Raven, they threw in Matt Hardy, Christopher Daniels even.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like we are getting to that point, and I don't know if it makes, and hear me out, I don't think it makes sense to have Cody in the 4 Horsemen, and let me tell you why. His dad was never in it. His dad was the biggest enemy of the 4 Horsemen, you know?
That's why a heel Cody Rhodes would join.
Oh, it don't make sense. Stop making sense at me. You're coming in with your logic, and I don't like it.
Well, speaking of 4 Horsemen, should we talk about the other half of the 4 Horsemen in FTR versus the Lucha Brothers?
Yes, let's just go for it. So we had the wonderful entrance where Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade come out with their car again. Butcher and Blade hang way back just to make sure the car's kept safe, and we have some silly moments like JR going, "Why is the local authorities not have called and searched for the car?" And I'm just kind of like thinking, JR, it's wrestling. You've done this for years now. You should know why it's not there. Maybe you should stop asking that question. But I get what you're doing. But yeah, like it was at times a little bit botchy. I'm not gonna lie. I think the Lucha Bros had a few little botches here and there, but I expect that from a very high octane, super fiddly style. It's like, which plays really well into what the FTR are all about, which is just like fists and fundamentals, and you don't botch fists and fundamentals, and I guess this kind of this plays into it. This gives credibility to the FTR logic, that even though there's a botch, I'm thinking that's great, because there's a bit of that kind of gets that where it needs to be when it comes to FTR's ideology, so that's great. We had more Tully watching, again, building into this whole 4 Horsemen stuff that we've been speculating for the longest while, and the commentary will not let you forget that. They're like, look at Tully, and every time there's just Tully sitting there, just taking everything in. But no Sean Spears, though, I did notice. No Sean Spears, who we did see in previous weeks when it's happened. So I'm wondering what's going up there.
I wanted to talk about Sean Spears when I was talking about Cody Rhodes, because he cut a little interesting promo on Dark this week. He was talking about legacy a lot, like building his legacy, and put real emphasis on the word legacy. Now, do you remember someone who was in a stable called Legacy and is now working for AEW?
Was that? I'm pretty sure that was Mr. Cody Rhodes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was with Randy Orton and Ted DiBiase Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the boys of the Head Shrinkers, I believe, were in there too.
Yes, but they were not long for that group for one reason or another, and I can't remember why.
Oh, and Jimmy Snuka Jr.
Yeah.
He isn't called that, but anyway, that's an aside. Yeah, Sean Spears wasn't there. There's probably an angle on next week's Dark that will explain his absence from there, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you want to talk about anything in the match besides the finish, of course?
Pretty brutal overall. I mean, there was one point where we've seen a little bit of crimson on Dax's chest. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, but there was just a lot of like a high intensity match to the point where I was shocked to see some crimson on the chest just from the chops alone. Thought that was quite interesting. But you know, it was good back and forth. There was a great sort of lucha dynamics that we always see from the Lucha Bros. Great sort of fundamentals that we are used to and expect from the likes of FTR. You know, both teams played into their strengths quite well, and was with the exception of a few botches here, I thought a good match. You know, couldn't really fault it. But then we do have the finish, which was a spicy finish. I want to call it a really heely finish. You know,
Oh yeah.
at this point, Dax is just getting frustrated with Ray Phoenix, so he just straight up rips his mask off and just turfs the mask out of the ring and does a quick roll up. And I was sitting there like, oh my god, whoa, what the
That was
heck?
shocking. That was shocking.
That shocked me so bad because I was like, did I see his face? Did I see his face? And I'm kind of sitting there going like, I don't want to see his face. I don't want to see his face. I don't want to see his face. Like, you know, I'm kind of doing a don't because like I want to kind of give him respect, but I'm also like a little bit curious about it.
And Ray Phoenix is selling it really, really well, protecting his face with all his might, even after the match. He's just lying there in the middle of the ring, covering his face, and his brother needs to come over to hide him, basically.
Yeah, like really playing into that lucha tradition where
Yeah.
if you lose your mask, you've lost your identity. You're done.
Yeah.
You know?
And they
really...
even mention it on commentary. It's a like DQ in lucha matches to rip off the mask. That's the interesting thing. But it's again in lucha matches you don't hold the tag rope to tag and stuff like that, and that's kind of the Lucha Brothers way. And FTR are all about the American style tag team wrestling. So,
and sadly, AEW does not wrestle currently in Mexico, so the rule don't apply. Even if they did wrestle in Mexico, the rule probably still wouldn't apply because it's an American federation. But
yeah,
like,
I mean, FTR are holding up their style, the American style, and the American style. It's okay to rip off the mask, but you need to hold the tag ropes.
Yeah. Follow the rules. Your mask is coming off, but I'm tagging with this rope. You know?
But yeah. Anyway, a shocking finish, a great match. FTR getting the heat back after last week's loss in the 8-man tag. But the really interesting thing happens after the match.
Oh, you talking about where a little Nick Jackson comes up behind Butcher and Blade and invites them formally to the Super Kick party, takes back the key. Oh, takes back that little car key, goes down, and we see Kenny Omega join him. It's kind of like an elite celebration at this point, you know.
Kenny Omega has a cooler to offer them some beers, and he has Japanese beers, which was a really nice touch.
What's that Japanese beers? I didn't even see what it were. Okay.
Yeah, Japanese beers. Of course, 2 weeks ago, FTR came out after the tag team title defense between Kenny and Paige. And FTR offered them beers, and Kenny poured out the beer outside the ring because he didn't drink, right? And this was kind of his way of making up for that.
Yeah, Kenny was trying to be nice. He was trying to like build the bridge the gap, all good. He's ready to have a brew with the boys as well.
Yeah, I think in kayfabe, the Bucks did talk to Kenny after the 8-man tag and say like, okay, we're not friends with FTR, but we respect them. And now Kenny feels like he has to make up for that.
Yeah.
Which makes the following that much more brutal. Because FTR take the beer and just pour it on poor old Kenny's head.
And you could just see the kind of like, and Kenny Omega does great facials. Take that whatever way you will, but he does a great. He has a great facial where he's kind of okay. I see what you've done there. Okay, I'll take that. And then he's just ready to go at them, but like the Bucks are pushing him back, and the Bucks are trying to restrain him, but they're also saying to FTR like, what the you doing? What the hell are you
Yeah.
doing? You know, like, trying to be the neutral party, trying to keep the bridge built, but it's that bridge is shaky. That bridge is on very unstable ground. Let me tell you.
But again, you can two different ways. Like the last interaction between FTR and Kenny. Some people said they were trying to anger him by giving him beer because they know he doesn't drink. Some say they didn't know, and it was seriously offending what Kenny did. And like this week, they're just returning the favor. They're pouring out the beer, just like Omega did. They're just doing it on the set.
I thought that was the case as well. I thought it was a matter of like I didn't think it was strategic the first time. I thought it wasn't strategic the first time, but like obviously it's revenge this time. And I thought that was very clear and cut. Like I thought that was very just easy to read.
Do you mean to tell me it was an eye for an eye?
It might be an eye for an eye, but well, last time I checked, we weren't watching the horror show at Extreme Rules. We were watching Fight for the Fallen.
Well, next up, Chris Jericho with Pride and Powerful and Jake Hager come out, and Jericho explains that AEW is winning so much. You wouldn't believe how much AEW is winning in the all-important 18-49 demo, and of course he is the demo god. And he teases a rematch with Orange Cassidy, but then says no, the fans will never have that. And then we see a little man called Orange Cassidy in the stands walking down, and he gives them the lazy thumbs up, turns it into the lazy thumbs down, and there was a signal for someone to pour tons and tons of orange juice onto the inner circle.
I'm going to use hack theory. I'm going to say it's the best friends report it. I'm going to say the best friends were up there doing it. Kayfabing it up. Best friends decided to give them a blood orange bath. And you have that wonderful moment where like Ortiz is just mimicking his best Vince McMahon Stone Cold style when he came out with the beer truck. You can just see like Ortiz is just slipping and swimming through the orange just like he's a Vince McMahon.
He was flopping around like a fish out of the water. That was amazing.
It was amazing. And that, that's what I have to say. Like the Demo God getting absolutely juiced was brilliant. But they couldn't have followed it up better. Where he asks for a towel, they threw a towel at him, and oh no, sorry, that's no ordinary towel. That just happens to be a very well branded towel of Mr. Orange Cassidy, the same print from his T-shirt.
Wow.
And this is a beautiful, beautiful moment, like where, like you just see, like Santana's like, "God damn it," with anger, and Jake's just shouting. I'm like, "Drop the towel!" And it's like he's just sitting there, like, and then he realizes he's holding a big old picture of Orange Cassidy. Beautiful. I would buy that towel if that was an advert for a towel. I want that towel.
I mean, the towel is for sale. The best friends shilled that towel a couple of weeks ago.
Did they? Okay, I might have to get that towel. Just because I've never wanted a nonchalant man all over my body more than I have when it comes to that towel. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, get the official Orange Cassidy body pillow. You could probably get it on eBay. But anyway, I hated this segment.
You hated it?
Not a fan of it. Nope.
Right?
For one thing, the demo god, the ratings war thing, I don't want this to be on TV. Yeah, when MJF did it 2 weeks ago, I guess it's fine as a one shot. He didn't talk about it like at length. It was just this little wink, yeah. But Jericho, he makes it the centerpiece of his promo and calls himself the demo god. And I don't want this in my wrestling show. I wouldn't want politics in my wrestling show or economics in my wrestling show. I want wrestling in my wrestling show. And the second reason I didn't like it is I feel like they are overexposing Orange Cassidy. I hope they will let this feud simmer from there on out and keep him off TV for a couple of weeks now, because he's just been on there every week in, week out. And I think he works better as a special attraction.
Yeah, I mean, you said the same thing. Like, we want to see him as a special attraction. Don't oversaturate.
Yeah.
Don't oversaturate the show with him because it becomes too much and he loses his luster. Totally agree. In regards to the demo god stuff, I seen some other people look at it in a way, and I wasn't overly keen on it. But then I saw someone like really kind of point the logic at me. It's like Jericho's a heel. If he's doing something you don't like, he's doing his job right. He's meant to get you annoyed.
I mean, I just I see it in the meta way. I just don't want to have this on my show, and I don't actually blame Jericho on it. It's just it lost the quality of the product as a whole for me.
Mm. I do worry that if they do it too much, I will agree that it will get stale and it could have a counterproductive effect. But I think we'll get into that a little bit later on the news. But I do agree and disagree with the segment, if you know what I mean. I see some charm in it, but I do see how it could be detrimental.
Next up, Jurassic Express is backstage. Marco Stunt has a good laugh at the inner circle and what just happens to them. Luchasaurus says, here's finally the chance to wrestle the Elite, and there's nothing funny about it. After that, Chris Jericho joins commentary. He does his whining a lot. It's quite funny. Says Marco Stunt and Orange Cassidy will pay for what they have done to them. My favorite line of this segment is, Excalibur, do you know what you can get at shopaew.com? My foot up your arse. I checked. You can't get it there. I checked.
Really, I'm really disappointed because I've been saving for a few weeks now to really get Jericho's foot up my ass because I've heard it's an incredible experience.
So have I. With a little bit of the bubbly, you know.
Bit of the bubbly.
That's how I like to spend my Friday evening.
Just pop a bubbly, foot up the ass. Nothing like it.
Well, next up, Jurassic Express versus the Elite, that is the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. And we see backstage Mr. Unlicensed Bartender, Hangman Adam Page, watching the match. He's at a bar watching TV. And do you want to take us through how Kenny acts? Because Kenny acts in a peculiar way here.
Kenny, I think is still a little bit miffed from the interaction with FTR. I think he's still a little bit fired up. And Jericho very smartly points out that he's not taking Marco Stunt seriously. He's still got his t-shirt on. And when they lock up, he's just kind of like throwing him off away. It's nothing. It's like, you're nothing to me, kid. You're nothing. And he's really, really quite cocky, quite arrogant towards Marco Stunt and taking the piss out of Marco Stunt because that's kind of what happens to Marco. Everyone treats him like an idiot because he's small. But Marco ends up fighting back and catching him in a few little a few surprise maneuvers, a little Hurricane Rana here and there, you know, something that kind of takes Kenny off, and Kenny gets pissed off. Kenny is not a happy boy. Shirt comes off. Jericho starts calling Kenny his favorite wrestler out of nowhere because he's going to beat the crap out of Marco Stunt.
Yeah.
But just a real rise of anger and again heelish motivation, heelish turning, kind of like a little bit of a split in Kenny's demeanor, and I think it does kind of go back to what happened with FTR. I think there's residual anger there, but he is just treating Marco like the punch bag for that. Like in this match, some of those snapdragons on Marco are scary. Did you see some of them? You obviously did, but like. You obviously did, but like, oh my god, the way he just like, even his delivery to the snapdragons to Marco was unreal and quite stiff. Like, I was like, what the hell? Okay, calm down. He's not FTR.
Yeah, and a little bit later in the match, we even get this spot when he wants to pull the V trigger on Marco Stunt, and Luchasaurus is shielding him with his face even.
Yeah,
and you just see how Kenny's mind works. He wears it on his face. It's like, screw it. If you don't want me to V trigger him, I'll V trigger the F out of you. Yeah, he's healing it up quite a lot in this match. A little bit too much. If you want to explain it with the pent-up aggression he's still holding from the segment earlier, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. Definitely, I I'm wondering if it's FTR. I feel like it is the FTR interaction that's done it, but is there also a little bit of like Adam Page's mentality rubbing off on him? Is he starting to become a little bit more, detracted from the Elite? Is he starting to feel more like the cleaner of old? Because when he's been in AEW, I think everyone's called him the best bout machine. No one's called him the cleaner. And these are two very different personas to Kenny. He's the best bout machine when he is your hero. He is the cleaner when he is your villain. And I think we're seeing the rise of the cleaner again. I think the cleaner's coming back.
Yeah. That is very, very likely. Backstage during the match, we see that FTR join Hangman and Adam Page at the bar, becoming friends back there.
I saw that.
That will play into an angle in the future, I'm sure.
I'm wondering how that works with the tag belts, because there's a bit of me that's kind of like, okay, Hangman, you're friends with these guys because you're drinking buddies, but they want your belts. Don't get things twisted. They want your belts. I don't think he realizes that.
I've got a little fantasy booking there,
right?
How things could go. Adam Page and Kenny Omega lose their belts to Dark Order. They've been sitting on top of that rating for half a year or something like that. They deserve a title match. They don't lose the belts clean. They lose the belts because of infighting and Dark Order shenanigans. And this will lead to a match, the Elite versus FTR and Hangman Adam Page. This could be the all out main event, or the big tag team match there.
I would like that, but then I wonder what. Oh, that's good. But I wonder, when does the FTR versus Bucks match come? Because I think that's the one everyone's waiting for. Does that come after? Does that come after it, or?
Yeah, that's the pay-per-view after that.
That's long-term booking. We don't see like that match to like what Revolution technically would it be the next
technically
pay-per-view? Yeah, which is like February of 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, that's long-term booking right there. Okay, all right.
Let's get back to the match for a moment, because as you can expect from the participants, it's a sport fest. It's awesome. It's fast-paced. It's innovative. It's high adrenaline. It was just a cool match all around. And I didn't think somebody could top the Canadian Destroyer from last week, but this week gave it a run for its money.
Yeah, I got that in my notes. It's like that Canadian Destroyer was just something else. Like, wow. Yeah. Just beautiful. But that doesn't matter, because like Kenny Omega is going to come in with his Snapdragon everyone. He was on a Snapdragon Fiesta. He was just dropping people on that. And again, Marco Stunt, taking it really brutal, taking it really bad. But then we have Kenny Omega. He's just going to do what he does best. He's going to hit him with the one-winged angel. Tries first, but he kind of maneuvers out of it. He manages to kind of almost turn it into, I think, was it like a DDT or a Hurricane Rana? I can't remember the specific way he reverses it first, but he does. But then Kenny's not for that. I think a couple of V-triggers just to kind of sort him out, and then he goes in and hits it with that one-winged angel. Bang!
That was probably the quickest one-winged angel I've ever seen. That looked brutal.
Oh, it really did. And like, I have to say, he has this very nice way of doing it, where he somehow manages to get his like left or right leg kind of over them in the middle of the transition. And I don't know how he does it that smoothly, but he does. Like, he really lands it really, really, really snug.
Yeah.
But that's not really the end of shenanigans, though, right? Kenny's up to some stuff. Why don't you tell us what Kenny's up to?
After the pin, Kenny stays in a top-mounted position on Marco Stunt. And something is going through his head, and then he just starts raining down punches on poor, defenseless Marco Stunt. And then Kenny has this almost psychotic grin on his face, like he's enjoying what he's doing. And the Bucks come in, stop him. Luchasaurus comes in, stops them, and they all say, "The match is over, Kenny. The match is over." And Kenny saying, "No, it's all cool. It's just part of the match."
And you can see like he's rambling in his psychotic nature as well. The Luchasaurus is still shouting at him, going, "The match is over. The match
Yeah.
is over." And Kenny's not having it. He's trying to like justify it, and it's like Bucks are like, it's like, go look after him. Go say sorry to him. Go check in on him. I'm okay. You need to check in on him. And he goes to try to him, like Luchasaurus is pushing him away. It's like, no, we want nothing to do. Go away. Just go away. You're more damaged than you need to. Go away. You know, really interesting little twist in the myth there with Mr. Kenny Omega. I will say, little tasteful curse to prelude to that delicious heel turn that we want.
Looking forward very much to that. Could lead into, at some point, what we all want, Kenny Omega taking the world title for himself.
But I need that. I need that.
Yeah, we all need that.
I miss the Kenny Omega. I miss the Kenny Omega matches like from New Japan. I'm not gonna lie, I love them, and I'm just not seeing them in AEW. And it's like the one thing I miss them is the most is those matches. But sure, we've got, I believe it's the Mox promo next.
The Sheeta promos next, but she just says, Nyla Rose can have a rematch, but since the women's division is kind of gutted right now, she takes all challenges as long as they prove themselves. Yeah, that's that.
Not much
Mox promos next.
Mox promo, just pretty much dropping a lot of hot anger in what he's had to deal with the last few weeks, especially given the fact that he's lost his friend. Like, his friend has passed away. He's had to deal with the COVID issue. He's had Taz riddle him and like light him up week after week about it, like just not giving anything. But he talks about just, you know, how angry he is, but how he's here to fight for those who have fallen. And I think he says that message in a more generalized perspective of how the world is at the minute, more than just the tagline. I think he's trying to speak to, like, you know, the people who are suffering from COVID, his friend has passed away, all people who have suffered or passed recently. He's quite long with that there. But he makes a very interesting point. He talks about Taz's promos where he says he can't do a paradigm shift because his biceps are just too big. And then
his neck is too big.
His neck is too big. And Moxley is just like, well, you know what? I'm gonna rip your bicep off again. You had a bicep injury, but it stopped you coming in here. I'm a turd again. And that's a great sort of foreshadowing to how this match goes.
Yeah.
But he's talking about he's just gonna focus on that there. He's just gonna tear it from the bone. Real just intense sort of brutality in his actions.
Good Mox promo lays out the story for the match later. Yeah.
Yeah. Really just nice foreshadowing. Perfect what you want. Just with taste it later. And then we have the Nightmare Sisters versus Jobber Supreme.
Yeah. Because not many people watch AEW Dark, short recap, Ellie has gotten herself into this tag team situation with Brandy, and the story they've been building is they can't stand each other, but Ellie is like infiltrating the Nightmare family in some way, and they've gotten a couple of tag victories now, and they had this promo on last week's Dark where Dustin said to Ali, I know what you're doing. Don't hurt my friend QT Marshall. Don't hurt my family. How about you don't do this time? Just give this a chance. Maybe this will work out for you. And like you said, did she do it in this match? On Dark, she copies Dustin's moves and poses.
She done it a little bit. She's done it a little bit in the match.
It seems like the story they're now telling is more of Dustin's distrust with Ellie, because they get rid of the jobbers rather quickly, and Dustin raises Brandy's hand, but he doesn't raise Ellie's hand. Overall, I didn't like the presentation here. They did a really good job on Dark telling the story, and I kind of enjoyed watching it there. And this is like the first taste of this story on Dynamite, and I think they didn't give it justice.
Yeah, they didn't give it room to breathe. It needed more time, more nuance, because I think the only real Dustinism she done was the drop down slap that he does, and I feel like if she had done more, it would have maybe let the angle breathe a little bit better, we would have seen some of that story come through, and we would have had maybe a better way of just seeing how that angle's playing out on Dark on Dynamite, but we just didn't see it. It was a jobber match. I'm not even going to really consider any sort of real weight on it. I don't.
Yeah,
Jobber matches are jobber matches.
move
Uh,
on.
and then we got the Nyla Rose promo. And all I'm going to say is that maybe someone's watching the Powerbotch podcast again. Because, when it came to the segment, we finally got, an insight who is Nyla Rose's manager. And I'm not going to say anything in regards to what I said before, but we find out that it's Vicky Guerrero. And I think that is a brilliant choice. I think that is the best choice. We have Vicky Guerrero managing Nyla Rose, and oh my god. Oh
She
my
does
god.
she comes out, she does the shriek annoying voice stuff. She cuts the short promos, says the other women in AEW are not smart enough to cheat to win, and Nyla Rose will steal everybody's opportunities from now on. So women's roster, as gutted as the division is right now, is on notice from here on out. And that's that.
You know what? And I have to say, her music, brilliant. Did you listen to music just to her, like, just going, it's like the intercut, like, lace with excuse me, just like squealing every so often. I was like, perfect. They got her music down perfectly. This is great. And like, she's just in my head. Like, the one thing I thought out loud was like, she has recruited the ultimate Karen as her manager. She has got Karen Prime as her manager. That was some of the notes I had. It's like, we got Karen Prime, boys. We're good to go.
Awesome. Let's get into the main event for the AEW Championship. Long-awaited Brian Cage versus John Moxley. And first off, Cage gets into Justin Roberts' face because he didn't announce him as the FTW champion. And Justin Roberts gives him his proper introduction, and then Taz cuts a little promo. He buries Mox's promo from early and says, "Injured biceps? What are you talking about? You're mad, bro. You're mad." Brian Cage is 100%, bro. And I like this because it plays into the strategy of the match and the story of the match tells.
And you have that part where it's like, it's just perfectly interlaced with that previous promo. So it's like, I'm going for your bicep issue, perfectly. But as we get into the match, and as we go into, there's like a fast start, and then immediately Mox is just going for that arm.
But I have to mention something because Cage has Mox in this fall-away slam position, and he starts curling Mox to show off. My biceps fine. I can curl you. I can even throw you over my body without doing without falling myself. Right?
Completely forgot about that.
Yeah, arms are totally fine. Sending a message out there, but like I said, Mox doesn't give a S word. Just goes for the arm. He's vicious at it.
He's just brutal. Like, he is doing arm stretches, he is doing like arm bars, he is getting into Chimera clutches, he's doing everything he can to just tear at that arm. I think one that really impressed me is that he does a tope suicida, but in the same motion he does the tope suicida into the ramp, or into the side. Sorry, he manages to catch him in an arm lock, like literally a split second later, and puts more pressure into it. So he's knocked the arm into the barrier and then straight into an arm lock, and I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful. Just fluidity in that attack. And you know what? Commentary are great about this as well. They're talking about the fact that the ref is not going to call the match on a count out. This is a title match. There's more leeway. That no one wants to see this match end on a count out. So the refs letting them just take each other around the whole ring and just do massive damage to each other.
The ref even does give them heelway for the more hardcore stuff they're doing, like like Mox puts a barricade on the apron. But Cage slams him through it. Cage even slams him through a steel chair. That looked brutal AF. And the announcers point out like a street fight. This is Moxley's wheelhouse, right? But honestly, whenever they get into the more street fightish situations in a match, Cage gets the better of them.
Yeah, because there was quite a bit of like back and forth before the actual barricade gets for into him, before he does a German suplex into the barricade, which was brutal. Both guys are both trying to do something, and it just so happens that Cage gets the better of him. He just fundamentally gets the maneuvers past him and is able to do that brutal slam. It's just a devastating, what a devastating drop. But like we then get him back in the ring, and again it's more back to the fundamentals that we normally see. But we do get a surprise paradigm shift out of nowhere.
But Moxley doesn't lift him up.
No, it was kind of just more of like an underhook DDT, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Dirty Deeds DDT.
Yeah, and it doesn't get the win because it's just not enough. It's half of what it should be. You know, it's not got that great elevation. It's not got that spiky nature in it.
And like Taz warned us, Brian Cage's neck, he can just take this drop. The Dirty Deeds, the paradigm shift isn't effective against Brian Cage. And Mox goes back to game plan 1, working on the arm. And the finishing sequence is just, I think, amazing, because it's just a series of getting the cross arm breaker locked in and Cage reversing, but Moxley doesn't let go of the arm, rolls him over right back into the arm breaker, and they're doing this for like almost 2 minutes, it feels like.
Yeah.
It looked awesome. And the finish comes when Taz throws in the towel. Although I'm not a fan of dusty finishes, I love this finish, because it protects Brian Cage tremendously. Because Brian Cage spent so much time in this armbreaker spot, it gives off the message like he would have continued. He would have sacrificed an arm if it meant to get another opportunity to beat Moxley, to win the title in this night. And Taz, on the other hand, he protects his investment, his client, for the future.
Yeah, because he knows he's not going to get cleared to wrestle if he loses this match. Because if he knows if Moxley can break the arm, or if he can tear the bicep, even if Brian Cage wants to do it, the ref's going to call the match off anyway. Like, he is going to bring it to a finish. He's going to call the match off, and then Medical is not going to clear him for a match, probably for months. So he's thinking like, right, we take this now, we come back later. This is not done though. We just need to preserve ourselves here. And that made sense. Like again, not a fan of dusty finishes myself, but you're right. This worked really well. This played into the story and played into the psychology really feckin' well. But it's not over though, because it's never over. As soon as we get a bit of calm down, we're announcing the winners of the match. Oh no, it looks like Brian is just going to lay in to Moxley and just absolutely beat the crap out of him, because he's pissed off. He's angry. He didn't win that belt. He didn't get his belt. He wanted that belt, but he didn't get it.
He even uses the FTW belt to knock Moxley down as a little subtlety there.
Yeah. Just completely takes his head clean off of it. And just when we're going to see, more brutality, all we see is the ring, the arena goes black. And I'm thinking to myself, like, honestly, I wasn't sure who was going to appear here, and I felt stupid for a second not knowing who it was. And the only reason why is because I thought to myself...
Because it was Sting! It was Sting all along!
Yeah, I thought it was Sting coming in to stop injustice. No, because like we've had so many releases. It's like, wait, did AEW snag up a release? Is this one of the released guys coming in? And I started getting myself excited about something that didn't happen. But no, what happened was still amazing. Darby Allin shows up. He's on the turnbuckle. He's got his skateboard in hand. A really cool customized skateboard, may I add. And he just drills Brian Cage right in it. It looked like the neck or like kind of like the bicep, but he just drills him and just starts laying into Brian Cage, getting Moxley off. And there's been that like slight uneasy truce between Darby Allin and Moxley for the last wee while, because even though they've had a match and whatnot together, they're still they still have a common enemy in Mr. Brian Cage, and Taz is getting Bran away, and they're getting away because he doesn't want to take 2-on-1. It's not worth it at this point. It's not worth it, despite the fact that Brian Cage wants to do it. He wants to murder them. Taz won't let him. Taz will not let him. And I don't think security so much tried to stop him as well, but it was like a member of production was stopping him as well, like a cameraman or something. Like, it was a really interesting choice of the second person to try and push Brian Cage back. But we have that moment where it's just out of nowhere, surprise, I'm back, and that I feel like is going to build to this wonderful angle of like Darby Allin versus Brian Cage for the FTW Championship.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Darby Allin teased his feud with Brian Cage there. Really cool return. He looked strong, really strong there. Brian Cage doesn't lose too much because he was just in a big match, in a grueling match with Moxley, and Moxley even gives Darby Allin this little look of recognition, kind of like, I like you, kid.
Yeah, just that, like, sort of like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Mox approval is a subtle one at best, but it's there. But it builds for this bigger match that I think we're both really excited for, especially considering the seeds were very much planted at Double or Nothing with that ladder stunt and whatnot as well.
So, how did you like the show overall?
You know what? I would say this show was like a 3.5 out of 5 in my opinion. Good show, some great matches, but then there was some also kind of meh stuff in there. Like, I mean, when we're talking about the Nightmare Sisters, that was kind of meh. Some of the segments were good, but they weren't great. It was solid. Like, I have to say, the one match that maybe I found probably I'm going to say match. I'm not going to include the jobber stuff in this, but the actual matches, I feel like the Cody Rhodes one was probably the least interesting for me, and I don't know why, but like, I usually expect a great match from Cody Rhodes, but it just didn't seem to have the same intensity. I feel like they booked Sonny to be a little bit too weak in this year. I would have liked to seen Sonny a little bit more competitive and bringing it to him a little bit more. Where I felt like they were just more concentrating on the idea of Cody being a cocky heel turn, which makes sense to the story, but for a match, it wasn't the most, exciting of matches to watch. Definitely full of flavor when it comes to story, but not the Cody Rhodes match that we know we can get out of him.
Yeah, I agree. 3 out of 5, rather 3.5 out of 5. I don't think the matches this week could live up to the matches we saw last week. Good matches, but not great matches. But on the other hand, they planted some really interesting story seeds for the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing what will grow from them. So yeah, kind of high 3 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Overall, good show. I would say good show. When we say 3.5 out of 5, it's not a bad show. That's a good show. If it's a bad show, I'd say 1. But we haven't had that thankfully yet. But no, yeah, it's interesting. It was a good show. A good amount of storytelling. It's like that. It's like any sort of post pay-per-view show. It's not too exciting, but there's enough story seeds being sown that they'll build for something later.
Yeah. So let's get over to the news.
Let's go over the news. What was the first news article you'd like to discuss, or what's on your mind? Give me an insight to what has tickled your pickle this week.
All capital, lowest Raw ratings ever. Because
oh my god, yeah.
You shouldn't discuss ratings on your wrestling product on TV, but you should discuss them on podcasts. That's what podcasts are for. Lowest Raw rating in history, and by quite a bit actually. By 125,000 people did they beat the record they set in May, and almost touched on last week. They had 1,000 more than the record last week, but no, new low, 1.561 million.
And the thing is as well, off the back of this here, because of the talk about the demos at this point, this is where we're talking about, and back in the day, we just talked about ratings where like demos are so important now because it's where the money's made is in those demos. Even in their key demo, the money demo as they call it, the 18 to 49, they were still the second. It was still the second lowest in that demo as well. So they were lowest overall for a Raw rating, but also the second lowest in their money demo as well, which is bad. It's really concerning, really
Yeah.
quite concerning.
The fan base is getting older. They don't get new young fans in, or at least not in a sustainable rate. And I think it's all because of the PG era. Their idea was there will always be more kids, right? We make a kid-friendly product. Sure, they will grow out of it, but there will always be more kids, and this seems not to be working that much because all they have now is the core fan base that's stuck around since the 90s.
And what doesn't make sense to me either is that the money demo is 18 to 49. So, like, they don't have to have a PG product to make the money. Like, the make the money, the demo is not even in the kid demo. The under 18's not making the money. It's the bloody 18s and up.
Well, I think they got high on John Cena merch money back then. Because the kids are the target audience for all your merch. Is stupidly overpriced shirts and wristbands and cappies and Rey Mysterio masks and replica belts and all this stuff. But nowadays the money is in the TV deals, right?
Yeah.
That's like why AEW turned a profit in their first year. They have a good TV deal. They don't do house shows.
They don't do house shows, and they pull well in their demo. They pull well in their money demo because that I don't know the specifics of the contract, but I imagine there's dividends paid from advertisers to the actual business that's creating the product. There's got to be a kickback there, right? Like, at least I think there would be.
I mean, the kickback is that the network greenlighted the second show because AEW performed higher than they estimated.
Yeah, and again, that's more money. It's more money in their back pocket, and that works for them. And I think WWE at this point need to start really reevaluating what they want their product to be, especially in the pandemic era. They're not selling merch at live shows. They don't have live shows. They need this demo money.
Well, even if they had live shows, their live shows aren't making them enough money. If you look at the quarterly reports, they're like now in the situation that WCW was in the 90s when Eric Bischoff came in. They didn't make money on the house shows. At least WWE isn't losing money on the house show business, or wasn't losing in the house show business last year, but they didn't make that much from it. And they should maybe reevaluate their product, give their guys a lighter schedule because the WWE schedule is still grueling for the amount of stuff in ring work the wrestlers have to do. I mean, it's bad for their bodies, you know.
Yeah,
you could get 10-20 year more out of your career if you had a lighter schedule.
And even then, if they don't want to get rid of the house shows, just drop it to maybe 2 a week, on top of TV. You know, like do like it's almost like what happens. They oversaturate it because they're in every city every week, and it's like, yeah, but if you hit that city 4 times in a year, surely by the third show, people are not going. They've already seen it twice.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
I don't know, but sure, we'll move on to the next article. What do you got for us next, Mr. Freed?
Let's talk briefly about the Wednesday night ratings war. AEW beat NXT handsomely this week. AEW pulled in 788,000 and NXT 631,000. A lead of over 150,000. And I kind of want to ask this question to you. Do you think it's because it was Fight for the Fallen versus NXT and not Dynamite versus NXT? This special attraction TV pay-per-view thing, is that what did the trick, or was it maybe the title match?
I think it was the title match. I think Mox done it. We didn't have Mox for a few weeks, and NXT beat AEW in the overall ratings, but as soon as Mox comes back, we have a massive injection in just Raw viewers. And this is not even just like in the 49 plus demos. The actual money demo was double NXT. Like NXT was 26 or something like that there, and or something stupidly low, or maybe 15 or something. But down in the lower bracket, where AEW in the top 5 in the money demo for that night. They beat Guy Fieri, who has been their biggest competitor in the money demo for the last few weeks. Screw you, Guy Fieri. AEW is coming for you. That's the true ratings war right there. No one cares about Guy Fieri anymore. It's all about big sweaty lads giving it stacks.
Okay. Now I want to see the Guy Fieri crossover episode.
It's been a feud that's boiling on the surface of Twitter recently, because even Cody Rhodes has been having pot shots against Guy Fieri over it. It's the true ratings war. We don't need to care about AEW versus NXT. It's AEW versus Guy Fieri.
Apparently, yeah.
But yeah, when it came to the draw, I think Mox goes a long way to draw a crowd. People know him from WWE and his time in the Shield and stuff, and the older demographic get into it from that perspective. But he's still a hot commodity even in our demo, because he's still fresh. He still is that really kind of dynamic and kind of, I don't want to call him Austin, but he's got the vibe of an Austin, where he just doesn't give a crap, right? He just wants to beat you up and win. He just wants the title, and he just wants to beat you up. Just that brawler, that sense of the everyman. He's the everyman in that sense.
Yeah, the no nonsense guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and the no nonsense guy is a great draw, because that's not when I talk about draw, I don't mean in ratings. I mean in the sense of perspective. He is the everyman, and being the everyman in wrestling is really fucking popular.
It's the modern action hero, action movie star. He's your John Wick. There you go.
Yeah, he's just no nonsense. He wants to punch you in the face and win. Simple as that. And if you're stupid enough to step in front of him, you're going to get shot in the mouth. Damn.
Speaking of shot in your mouth, how about an eye for an eye? Let's talk about this real quick again, because Rey Mysterio is reportedly working without a contract right now. And
yes.
He has this eye for an eye match with Seth Rollins on Sunday's horror show. And there's also reports that sometimes this year Seth Rollins will probably take a leave from WWE to look after his fiancée who's pregnant. So, do you think this match is an exit for either Rey Mysterio or Seth Rollins?
I think
to write them off TV.
I think so. The way we gotta look at it is, depending how this match goes, it's going to tell us so much how much. So that's a terrible sentence, but it's going to tell us how much Rey Mysterio is signing with WWE or not. If Rey Mysterio loses that second eye. Because in kayfabe right now, he only does have one eye. So if they take his eye away from him, I think we could see Mysterio in a AAA, in a AEW, in a New Japan ring. I think that will be the massive warning shot that gives us that info. If we see Seth Rollins get the eye taken out, then I tell you right now, then we know where Ray's going. We know Ray's staying essentially. And I think that's the big thing we'll take from this here. It's definitely the thing that I would, take from the match. I don't know if I'm going to watch the match.
What's your guess? What's your guess? Who's going away, or is nobody going away?
I don't think anyone's going away. I think Mysterio's staying. The reason why I think Mysterio's staying, because I think he is looking to try and get Dominic placement in WWE, and I think he's trying to ensure that, because I think what this comes down to is that I think he wants to try and get his son in somewhere, and WWE has NXT, which is great, because while Dominic is definitely a trained asset, and Dominic does have in-ring time, he has worked in-ring before, I think there's benefits from his dad having sway inside the company. If his dad is still in the company, and if he's in NXT, he's going to get a lot of great. A lot of great sort of skills and mentorship, especially from the likes of the NXT staff and whatnot, who are working there. And while I think AEW would pay the money. The thing that's stopping it right now, from my understanding, is that Vince McMahon didn't want to pay the money that Ray was asking for.
Yeah.
I think AEW would pay the money. It's just more an issue of do they have a place for Dominic? And I know they are talking about having a developmental system inside AEW at some point. My understanding was it might be the Nightmare Factory with QT Marshall's stuff, because I know he runs the Nightmare Factory, and that could be a place for Dominic. But I don't know how to feel about that, because I think Ray will probably find more confidence in just a sense of stability in NXT for Dominic. And I know he's going to be. He's copyrighted a specific name for himself. I can't remember which one it is though. But I think it's something Prince Mysterio or something. He's got a copyrighted name for, so we could see that they're coming. But it just depends. I think there's more stability in Dominic and Rey Mysterio staying with WWE, just because the institutions are there.
Gotcha. Another speculation station. Non-compete clause for the released talent ended 2 days ago on July the 15th. And there is a TNT title match announced for next week's Dynamite. Of course, some people will show up at Slammiversary. We already talked about them. Let's focus on the Open Challenge TNT title match. Who do you think will challenge? Is it any of the released superstars?
The one person I would have said it would have been Rusev, but he's got COVID. Sadly,
yeah.
He's been the one person I would have said we had a higher chance of seeing would have been Rusev.
Do you remember Cody said something about this? He said he wants one person from WWE, only one person.
Who was it? Because I know he wanted
his best mate, Zack Ryder.
Oh my god, I forgot about him. And yeah, do you reckon Zack? Oh, now you say that, there, I'm thinking how did I not think of that? How was I not that high? Yeah, that makes total sense. Zack Ryder. And I saw Zack Ryder was also on Twitter the other days doing promo shots of himself in his gear with a very advanced camera rig. So,
but then again, Zack Ryder would be the obvious option, and I don't think his bringing his friends in the company would make sense with the now more heelish Cody Rhodes. Would he act heelish towards Zack Ryder in the match? What do you reckon?
I reckon he would, because I reckon that he'd want to put Zack Ryder over as this valiant babyface. Oh my god, do you reckon he drops? Do you reckon he finally drops the belt to Zack, almost coronating him? Because Cody could do that. Cody could drop that belt, and it's almost look at this talent that you let go. He's already a champion here,
Dude,
and then that
Zack Ryder is, your fantasy booking in honor, but Zack Ryder is he's a charismatic guy. He has in-ring talent, but I don't think even in AEW he's upper mid-card. I just can't see it in the guy. And I like him to bits.
You know what? I think that's what Cody likes, though. I think he likes proving us wrong. Because he was considered the same way as well. No one took him seriously in WWE. And then he left, and he feckin' won all these championships, and he was a Ring of Honor's world champion. He had the US belt and in bloody New Japan. I think Cody loves doing that. I think he loves putting piss up the nose and vinegar up the nose of people who think they know better. And I think that's a great way you do that. You bring in Zack Ryder, you give him the belt, because it also lets Cody do that heel turn and go straight into the Four Horsemen. He gets pissed off. His best friend, the person he's doing a solid, just took his belt off him. Think about that.
I don't think Cody will drop the belt that soon. And here's my hot take: the challenger for the belt won't be any of the released superstars, but EC3 will be on the show, be it in a video package or live.
Do you think that there? Because I'm starting to have my suspicions he's going to show up at Slammiversary.
He will do both.
Do you reckon they'll give him that contract?
Impact apparently doesn't have that much trouble working their stars and letting their stars work 2 shows.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought Impact would have been hesitant to allow that to happen.
We don't know if EC3 has signed with anyone. It could be a one-off deal at Slammiversary, and he could show up at AEW, which I would prefer, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'd do better.
Like
there.
The only people we know have signed with Impact are the Good Brothers.
Do we have that confirmed though?
Yeah.
I still have yet to see confirmation.
I went through the articles this week, and I've seen it again and again.
Okay.
They have signed a deal.
Right. Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay. Do we have another news article? Should we jump on to something else?
I mean, Tokyo Sports did report on Kairi Sane is going back to Japan, but she still will be on friendly terms with WWE. I mean, we've touched on this a couple of times in the last weeks. It's more back and forth.
Yeah, it's all over the place, and I don't know what to think at this point. Like, if they let her go back to Japan, are they letting her go as an ambassador? Like, will she do the ambassador role? Because I know they're trying to break into Japan and trying to get more Japanese talent, especially from the likes of Stardom and whatnot. Although that becomes more interesting because I believe Stardom are now owned by Bushiroad, who also own New Japan.
Mm.
So there's a little bit of an intriguing dynamic there now with that. I think they'll be a little bit more tight-fisted with their use of talent. Or their release of talent anyway. So it's hard to say. We found out who, in different news, managed to convince Vince McMahon about the face masks. Did you see that there?
Yep.
It was Kevin Owens. I didn't think it would be him. I didn't think he would have the sway.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe he just has his way with words.
You know what? I have to say, like, maybe he is more just, maybe he has got the balls to go up to Vince, because I know that is a thing where apparently some talent just are very intimidated by Vince because it's Vince. But I didn't think, for some reason in my head, I just didn't think Vince would listen to Kevin on that level. You know? I didn't think that would be the case. I didn't think that Kevin would have this that sort of sway to convince him to do that.
Well, he doesn't need to have the sway. He doesn't need the backstage pull. He just needs to explain it to Vince in a way he understands. And he probably, according to reports, he did it like, if we don't do X, Y, Z, I'm not coming back here. This is a shit S-word show you're running here.
If he done it like that, that's an interesting one, because that shows even more balls.
Yeah, probably not with those words, but he apparently said we need to do those things. If we are not doing this, it's not safe. I'm not going to work under these conditions and stuff like that. And right now, they're scrambling for high-profile talent. They need someone with a big name like Kevin Owens.
Yeah, they do, and like they don't have the actual babyface they want there because he is immunocompromised. Like Roman can't show up. Like he is way in bigger risk than anyone else if he shows up, despite the fact that he is their de facto babyface. They need their stars. Interesting though. I just didn't think of it. It just took me by surprise slightly. It just took me massively by surprise on that one. Apparently, also, Paul Heyman was not given any heads up by Vince on the releases ahead of time. And I know that's
Yeah.
been a big talking point with AJ Styles not trusting Heyman as well, because there's been a lot of reports where AJ Styles was like, "Oh, I don't like Paul Heyman because he didn't do anything to save Carlin and Gallows." And now we're getting told that Heyman wasn't even given a heads up, which is kind of like, well, screw you, AJ. How could he save someone if he didn't know they're on the chopping block?
I think there have been a lot of stories about AJ Styles in recent news. I think he's a little bit stressed out right now. He needs to calm down a little bit.
True.
I mean, you didn't hear all those reports about AJ in the past. Maybe pandemic is getting to his head.
Yeah, true. Maybe it is that there, and I guess you know what, like it was two of his best friends who he brought. Like he made a point of bringing them from New Japan into WWE, and they get released, and he doesn't. He probably feels so angry because at that point, it's like, well, I promised to look after these guys, and look what happens. You know?
Yeah.
Real kick in the knackers, if you ask me. But I thought that was an interesting one. Anything on your side, news wise, you want to talk about?
Nope.
Nope. Should we wrap up the news for them?
Let's wrap up the news.
Fantastic.
Got a little bit more time on our hand this week. We managed to get through AEW and the news on a better pace this week. So we can do something we've been planning to do.
What was
for quite a while?
Oh, that's the wrong thing. I'm going to take that thing off. Sorry. What do you want to? I had the wrong title up there. What would you like to talk about then today?
Well, we've discussed doing some open discussions and some opinion pieces that's not tied to the current news.
Does anyone spark your fancy? We'll maybe talk for it a little bit.
We did talk about, maybe we should tell the audience our relationship with WWE and why we review Dynamite, not maybe NXT or one of the main shows.
Okay, we can do that there. So you want to talk about our relationship with WWE? Let's get into it then. So, do you want to take us through? Your relationship with WWE, and I'll let people a bit of history of it, a bit of the, just kind of fill us in how you ended up becoming a wrestling fan a little bit.
Oh, sure. Well, I started watching wrestling on a regular basis in the early 2000s, and of course I started with WWE because what else was on TV? There was no other wrestling available, and I was the biggest mark you could possibly imagine as a kid, and I had all the merch. Wrestling was my life, and then I discovered through the rise of the internet that there's more wrestling out there, a different wrestling, as you might say. I think the first moment that opened my eyes was WWE ECW One Night Stand, because the wrestling they showed on One Night Stand was just on a different level altogether. And shortly after this, we did get a little bit of TNA on German TV, and TNA Impact was like just amazing. You know, it was amazing because it was so different. You had the stars, but you had all those guys I didn't know, and they were doing crazy shit. They were doing crazy flips, and they were wrestling so fast. And the entire X Division thing they are going for themselves was some of the best wrestling period you could see back then. And TNA was a very good blend of sports entertainment and athletic wrestling. And of course, I got to watch some ROH, some New Japan and stuff like that. And I had all this wrestling going on in my life, and at some point I kind of lost my passion for it a little bit, to be honest, and I dropped out of wrestling altogether. I stopped watching WWE at first, then I stopped watching TNA. Then I didn't watch any wrestling for a couple of years. I came back in 2013-ish, And uh, I don't know. I feel like by then I became the internet fan. Like I watched it, but I was complaining about it all the time. But I still found some enjoyment in it. And I I stopped watching WWE when all this Roman Reigns BS just I couldn't take it anymore. Stopped watching. And I probably shouldn't say the next part because it makes me sound like a horrible person. But when Roman Reigns announced that he had to step back from wrestling, I came back to the product for a while. And well, earlier this year in January, I had to reevaluate my my life with WWE again because I think it was SmackDown. I sat down, I wanted to watch SmackDown, and I was like, how much of the show will I skip this week? And in my head, it was like, I think this week I will skip the entire show. Because building up to that, I didn't watch 3 hours of Raw. I didn't watch 2 hours of SmackDown. I watched half an hour of SmackDown maybe. Because I just could skip through everything because everything was just. It felt dreadful. Why watch the TV matches? They don't put any effort into this. So maybe just watch the promos for the stories. Well, there weren't that many good promos. And that's kind of why I'm now on the AEW train. It's the alternative I was looking for, like TNA in its glory days. It's the blend of sports entertainment and athletic wrestling. It's kind of my style. But I've been talking for quite a while there. And I mean, poor old John just listened to me going on and on.
I'm happy to listen because, like, again, it gives us a better insight to why your current preferences are the way they are. Like, when it came to me, I was very much like yourself. I grew up in the '90s. With wrestling. I was watching the Attitude Era stuff when the Attitude Era stuff was going live. I was made aware of WCW, funny enough, by the fact that me and my best friend used to play WCW versus NWO Revenge. That was like the only sampling I weirdly got of like WCW. Never really watched it. More watched WWE. And I used to spend like my Saturdays watching SmackDown highlights and on a Sunday watching Heat and whatnot from the previous week because that's just the way UK television was at the time. But I kind of got into wrestling at that point, and obviously had my favorites. Of course, I was a Kane guy when I was growing up. I fucking loved Kane. There's just something about Kane. It was just, to me, it was like, this is amazing. He's like a big demon who fights for justice. Because he was, at this point, he was a babyface. He's like a big demon who fights for justice, and I loved that stuff. Like I got really into that stuff. And then I was watching it up until about, I think maybe just the start of Ruthless Aggression era, and I won't lie, it kind of like for a while I was like, ooh, I just dropped out. Like wrestling just did not interest me at that point. I felt like again, it was the people I loved were no longer the focal points, and I was kind of that mentality, like, who the hell is this person, and what's a Cena and all this crap, and I wasn't really digging it, and I dropped out for a while. And then weirdly enough, I came in like back when you like kind of when you did with like the TNA stuff. We started getting TNA on UK television here on like what's called Challenge TV at the time and whatnot. And I started watching like TNA. This was just before we had like the Eric Bischoff Hogan era, where we still had quite a lot of big focus on the likes of Daniels, like Daniels and Kazarian we see today. We still have quite a bit of focus on him, which has been great because I've been kind of watching their career kind of transition since then. It's there's a nice like sort of transcendental nature to that. They're like kind of
Chris Daniels started wrestling in the early '90s.
Oh yeah, he done some matches for WWE as a jobber for a while, and then I think he was on the Indies for a while, but like his big break was with like TNA, if my understand's correct. But like I got really into them, and I was getting into AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and the big lad, the Abyss and stuff. Like I was really digging that stuff with TNA, and then I got turned on to The Nexus stuff that brought me back to WWE, funny enough, was the Nexus stuff, and I got really into that there. And this is before the Punk pipe bomb crap and all that stuff, where I know a lot of people got back in with the Punk pipe bomb because that was a very polarizing and sort of like a big shot into the arm of wrestling. But I kind of came in before that there because it was the segment where Nexus destroyed the ring, beat the living bejesus out of John Cena and stuff. You know, I got into that there because I was like, whoa, what are they doing over there? It's just pretty cool. Like, it was jarring. It was different. It was new. It looked real for once again. I was like, maybe I should go back and watch WWE. And I kind of got back in from that there standpoint. And I was watching that for a while. And then the Summer of Punk happened, the pipe bomb and everything. And then, I'm not going to lie, I dropped off again because Kevin Nash killed it for me. I was just getting back into things, and then Kevin Nash came in and just absolutely just decimated Punk, and I was just like, why? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? I just saw you on TNA a few months ago. Why are you here? Why are you ruining this angle? Why are you ruining this? And I got really pissed off with that. I'm not going to lie. It really got to me that Punk ended up having the Summer Punk really dropped quite fast, and that made me that kid took me out of wrestling again. So I dropped out again, and then I was kind of like just drifting along, and I was getting little bits like every so often I would be like some of my mates would go like, do you want to watch WrestleMania this year? I was like, okay, I'll watch WrestleMania, and I'd watch the odd WrestleMania here and there, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, there's Ed still, okay, that's cool. Like, you know, like little people I knew from like the days of the Attitude Era, like my nostalgia pop, like on, oh, that's cool. And then I started. I actually met someone in work who was a wrestling fan, and he got me really back into it. He was really smart and how he got me back into it. He started me on like ROH and New Japan. And this is just as like Jericho is like invading New Japan. This is where he's going after Kenny Omega. Like I'm here like Chris Jericho is like going to this promotion. I'm like, what's New Japan? He's like, oh yes, this is where this amazing promotion where with Ring of Honor and stuff, and they work over there, and they work over in Japan as well. And there's this faction called the Bullet Club, and Jericho's shown up, and I'm like, this sounds really interesting. Like, yeah, it's like, do you remember NWO? I was like, yeah, I remember NWO. They were kind of cool for a while before they became uncool. And he's like, yeah, like imagine like a new generation of the NWO that are not crap. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I start getting into it, and like I'm seeing the Young Bucks, I'm seeing Kenny Omega, who I love. I'm seeing Cody, and I'm like, and I remember Cody from WWE, and I'm like, is that Cody from WWE? It's like, yeah, but he's not allowed to use the Rhodes name, and I'm getting into that there, and I'm starting to fall in love with New Japan and ROH, and I'm like, okay, I'll give WWE another chance. I'll get a flavor for it. I'll get a taste for it again. And I'm watching WWE because it's got weekly shows. Like, I still watch New Japan, but they don't do weekly shows. And I was like, right, I'm getting back into wrestling again. I need weekly shows. And ROH don't really do weekly. They do weekly, but it's not like weekly in the sense of what they do, what WWE or AEW do. They kind of like record angles.
Was this 2017? Or
Yeah.
when was that? Yeah.
There was about 2017, like we're talking like Jericho is like in the full height of taking on Kenny Omega, so we're talking like it's the Alpha versus Omega angle. And this is the first year I even purchased New Japan World. I'm watching it live. I'm watching it, which was great as well because like for me, New Japan's shows air at like 9 or 10 in the morning, which means I'm not having to like stay up all night and watch these shows. I get to watch them live and stuff. Which is really great. And I'm getting into it like that there. I'm getting into this point where it's like me and New Japan, and I'm really getting into that there. And I start watching WWE just to kind of give myself that weekly hit. But the problem with WWE is that, like you said, their matches are a little bit stale during the TV shows. The storylines treat you like an idiot. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. WWE creative think you're an idiot and will try and pull the wool over your eyes every few weeks. It's like, oh, they will remember this here inconsistency here. Let's just do that there. Like, that makes no sense because of that thing over there. Why do you think I'm stupid? And that became more and more of a thing. And the promos were so lifeless, and the promos were so lacking of any sort of personality other than the terrible writer that wrote them. and I started to get really annoyed that they kept hot shotting angles and like nothing was let to breathe. And then I'd watch New Japan, and I'd maybe watch like 4 shows, maybe like 4 shows in 2 months, and then I'd get the G1, and I would get like bloody 15 shows in like 3 weeks, and the way they done the storytelling between those like 5 months, even though there was less shows, so much room to breathe, and I was getting into it, and Kevin Kelly over in New Japan, brilliant announcer, doesn't get enough credit for what he does. He was working with he's working with the guy that actually owns TNA right now, or doesn't own TNA, but he's like their EVP, or he's their CEO. Guy plays Cyrus in the ECW days. I can't remember his name now. God, but them two are on. Regardless, them two are on commentary, and they're kind of like filling you in and giving me some of the backstory. I'm kind of like looking at the two products, and I'm kind of like looking at New Japan, and I'm looking at WWE, and I'm like, why are they able to do more with less time versus this TV show that's on weekly that do less with more time? How does that work? Quite got to me a little bit. That annoyed me, and all the hot shotting and whatnot just kind of really put me off the product. And just as All Out is happening, I feel like I'm starting to hit that point where I was like yourself, it's like I'm watching less of the shows, and this is before AEW even existed. I'm like watching less of the shows. I'm just working on highlights at this point. Like I'm going onto the YouTube channel and I'm just clicking the segment that I think looks interesting. I'm going on to like Wrestle Talk or Cultaholic or whatever, and I'm getting updates from them guys, because at that point it's like, why bother watching the match? They'll watch it for me and tell me what I need to look out for, and if I think it's interesting, I'll go search for it. I'll go look it up myself. I'll watch a segment then, because they're going to tell me, at least say, this was interesting, this wasn't, maybe you're interested in this, and it'll give me a guiding point for him to spend 5 hours of my week looking at this stuff. And the more dependent I became on that, the less dependent I became on WWE as a show. And I just couldn't. It got to the point where I was kind of like watching, I was watching these updates and these clip shows, and then I'd watch the pay per view. That was the only thing I watched in full was the pay per view, and I feel like, much to the point you raised earlier, when you don't watch the show, when you skim a show, are you really enjoying the show? What's the point?
Yeah,
you know. And it's something that I don't know about you, but like, I just can't do that. I just can't. I life's too short, and I don't have enough time to suffer through bad TV.
Yeah, I mean, if you just put yourself in the shoes of a true WWE fan, if you want to follow all the wrestling product, 3 hours of Raw, 2 SmackDown, 1 NXT, 2 hours NXT, sorry. 7 hours, main event 8 hours, 205 live 9 hours. Maybe you got a pay-per-view, 13, 14 hours with pre-show. Maybe takeover too. You're at 17, 18 hours of product you would need to consume in a certain week, right?
Yeah,
that's insane. Just insane.
And even then, it's like, what do they do with that time? They do very little with it.
Most of that is crap. I mean, like the 5, 7, 8, 9 hours of TV. Are they even doing 205 Live anymore?
I think so.
Probably not right.
I think they still are, yeah, but it's done from the
performance. Let's just say 8 hours of TV. How much of that is even good TV? Like
maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes at most.
I mean, the NXT stuff is better.
Yeah, okay. If we're talking main roster, yeah. Like, NXT is good, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
NXT takeovers are really stellar. Really stellar.
Yeah. NXT's great. Like, that's a great show. Like, NXT is brilliant. And I love NXT. I may talk a lot about AEW. I love NXT. Like, NXT has done me right for the years. Like, that was the one thing that I didn't really skip through, is because, like, NXT, I was really enjoying the Gargano and Ciampa feuds. I really dug those. Like, who couldn't dig those? The Shayna Baszler run was wild. The Asuka run was wild. Like, they had some great story beats and whatnot.
Shinsuke Nakamura in NXT was so great. Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, uh, Finn Balor.
Finn Balor, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn. He had a stellar match, or he had a stellar feud, or he had a stellar opening match with Shinsuke. Their first match was just
Incredible. Or a couple of years ago, Pete Dunne versus now I'm blanking, the other guy from Mustache
Tyler
Mountain.
Bate.
Thanks. Didn't they even get a 5-star match? It was incredible.
Yeah, the 5-star match for the belt.
Yeah.
That's where the belt went into Tyler Bate's hands. That was a great.
Incredible. Always.
It.
And yeah, NXT, great product. Especially the takeovers when they pull out everything they have, right? And then one night later, you have to watch the WWE main show pay-per-view, and it's like, how can you expect your audience to watch a WWE pay-per-view after a takeover? It's night and day. I felt like I was watching a takeover because I wanted to see the matches. It's amazing. And then I had to work my way through the pay-per-view because I was into the stories, at least, you know. That's the main show, WWE. You can't even watch it for the matches because honestly most of them aren't that great once you compare it to matches outside of WWE. They need to hook you in with the story, and if the stories are shite, then the product is shite in the end.
Yeah, like it you know, the angle, like, you can have a good match, but you need an angle that's coherent and makes sense and draws you in if you want to watch that match. Like, I don't care about a match if you haven't given me a reason why these two people hate each other. Like, anyone can have a wrestling match. I need to know why they hate each other, you know? It has to make sense.
And I mean, if you look at WWE this year, the stuff that draw ratings was their soap opera stuff. The Rusev, Lashley, Lana, cuckolding storyline that was stupid, but apparently people watched it. The Otis Mandy Rose storyline, yeah, all the soap opera stuff that drew people in. And what did those angles not revolve around? Wrestling.
Yeah.
And to a wrestling fan, this is just daunting.
It's weird. Like, it was so bizarre. Like, the angle they're doing at the minute on SmackDown with Jeff Hardy is all about it. And this is something I don't like what they do either. Like, they get too close to home with some of the angles. Like, they're really, like, putting the fact in that he's struggled with substance abuse in the past. And they treat that like fair game, and I don't like that. I don't like that.
That's not even the point. If Jeff Hardy is okay with doing that, you can do this in a tasteful manner. But of course they're not doing it. It's funny to them that he's substance abuse issues. It's funny to Vince. Vince is probably watching this and just laughing his ass off.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like, Matt Hardy,
they threw piss in someone's face. They taunt him. Oh, it's a bar fight. Like, ha ha ha! It's so funny that you can't control yourself.
And here's the thing as well, like, did you see recently Matt Hardy said that he is concerned about the pressure that's on Jeff at the minute, which makes me think that Jeff is not totally high on this angle. That maybe
that's why I said if.
Yeah.
Big if.
You know, and that's really concerning. That's really concerning to me, and I don't like that. Like, I hate the way they do this. They do it more often than they don't. They do this more often than they don't. You know? It really pisses me off. Really fucking pisses me off.
Yeah. And again, you hear the story often. A WWE product isn't made for the fans. It's made for an audience of one.
And it's telling. It's bloody well telling. It's I don't know. But those are very key reasons as to why I can't get behind it, though. Like, I can't. It's so hard to do so. I even tried to expose my best friend to it as well. And what I done is that and fair play to him, he spent the whole time with me. It was the year, I think it was 2018. We had 2018 we had the WrestleMania event weekend was huge. Okay, so we had
Mhm.
the show at Madison Square Garden, which was the ROH and New Japan Super Show. Then we had the takeover the night before, and then we had WrestleMania. I watched all three of them live. Like I watched all of it live, and he watched it all live with me. And he was like super impressed by the NXT show because he's like, these guys are phenomenal talent. These guys are incredible talent. I didn't know WWE was like this. Like, yeah, WWE can be good when they let it be good. And then he watched the ROH and the New Japan talent, and he's like, this is incredible again. This is great wrestling. And like they even in the New Japan and the ROH stuff, they had some really interesting matches. Like they had the freeway match between Marty Scurll. God damn it, who was it? Marty Scurll. Was it? Oh, it doesn't matter. But they had a triple threat match anyway. Then they had like the PCO match as well with the tag belts. They had the four way tag belt match, and they had the theatrics of like PCO being shocked to life like a real life Frankenstein. They had the pomp and circumstance and some of the corniness that makes wrestling there, but they still had all the grit wrestling to back it up. And then it came to WrestleMania, and after going through that, there you're just kind of like going, "What is this? This is so corny." And like it was like such a, you could just see it just talking to him. He was just like, it's like, how did they manage to go from NXT to this? Like this is like half the time we were just going like, this is so stupid. This makes no sense. Or this is so stupid. This makes no sense. This was WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year, you know?
Mhm.
And I think it didn't help that there was like NXT, a massive New Japan match, and and a massive ROH show together, and then it goes into that because you have like 2 nights of stellar wrestling storyline, everything, and then you have WrestleMania, which is just a big sort of a big circus, a big child circus, as I'll probably define it as. Like you get the odd 1 or 2 good matches on there, but it's more about a spectacle rather than the matches, and it plays into that spectacle more than the matches as well.
Yeah.
And you could just see from like a person he hasn't watched wrestling since he was a child. You could just see the disconnect of him going, "What the hell is this? Why do people watch?" And like that's the thing. Like he said, like I understand why you watch the NXT stuff. I understand why you'd watch the ROH stuff. I understand why you would watch the New Japan stuff. I don't get WWE. I don't
I
get
feel
it.
yeah, and it's not even that all of it is bad from the main roster stuff. They even nowadays they put on good angles from time to time. It's just you have to put up with so much bovine manure to get to the good stuff. Yeah, like and you can't expect an audience to keep up with that.
Yeah, like I can't. I couldn't. I honestly couldn't. It would put me away. It
And
put me away.
it's I ask myself often was wrestling was WWE better back then? Was I different? Well, I surely was different as a kid, as a teen. Yeah, but like, did the product stay the same and I outgrew it? Like, was it truly better back then? What's your take?
I went back and watched. Like I was sick for a while and I had a lot of time off work, and I did go back and rewatch like the start of the Attitude Era, which was like, I think it starts in like December '97 or something, or '98. But I watched that there, and there is a lot of crap. Like don't get me wrong, when you go back and watch it, it's your nostalgia is hit pretty hard because you think about Austin, you think about The Rock, you think about Triple H, you think about like all those there, but there is a lot of crap segments in it. There is a lot of guff in there, and you forget that Brawl for All was in there. You forget about the kennel match. With Big Boss Man and Al Snow. You forget like all the jobber segments. You forget the Godwins and stuff and all that crap. There is a lot of crap there. There really is.
Yeah.
But your nostalgia you just remember Austin with the bloody beer hose. You remember Rock chucking the title into the river. You remember all of those angles. You never remember all of their stuff. And there was a lot of crap that was on the shows. but it was entertaining crap though. Like it was, I can still watch it and go, "This is really stupid," but I can kind of still, I can still kind of watch it. Where like I can't watch because it's kind of puerile, and that's kind of like when stuff is kind of puerile and stupid, you kind of it's easier to watch. But when it's super sanitized, like where it is right now, and it's stupid, it's not easy to watch. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what?
Probably got a point there.
And you know what? It's not 3 hours long. It's not 3 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah. When did they start the 3-hour Raw?
I think that was back in 2015 or 16. It was definitely like midway through the decade.
Yeah. It's whew. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's too much of the product, and yeah, too much of it is just bad. Like, and even if you would just say, okay, I only got time for Raw, I only keep up with Raw, like with the pay-per-views and with things like the draft, you don't even get the full experience out of it.
No, you don't. You don't. I was way off on the calculation of when it went to 3 hours. It was later than that. It went earlier than that. It went to 3 hours in 2012.
Ooh.
It's
Okay.
been doing 3 hour 3 hour shows for the last 8 years. Because it started on the 23rd of July, 2012.
When the ratings decline started, because the third hour always tanks, right?
Yeah, and I get why they do it though. It rakes them a lot of money.
Moolah, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of advertising bucks in it. But like how much those advertising bucks are going to stay around if they're dropping the key down that we talked about earlier in the news? It's still a hard sell. You know, that's still
what was the Raw rating back then? They were probably close to 5 million, weren't they? Between 4 and 5 million, I would say.
The average rating was a 3.3 million, with like peaks of 4.75.
Okay.
So you're talking like you're going from an average of 3.3 to an average of 1.5. You're talking like literally more than half actually.
Because I remember it was just 1.5 or 2 years ago. Well, 2 years ago probably, when they started to go into hardcore panic mode when they dropped under 3 million for the first time.
Yeah.
Like on a regular basis. Wasn't that when they did all the no more authority, the fans are the authority, Baron Corbin, it's Baron Corbin's fault and stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
How
put it on
petty!
Baron Corbin.
How petty!
You know what? That's terrible. Like, imagine you're the talent and your bosses go on live television and go, the ratings have dropped because you're boring. You're boring the fans, and we can't have you boring the fans anymore. It's like, no, he doesn't write the show. He gives the material you give him. But like it was an average of 3.3, with like an average rating of 3.3, which translates to about 4.75 million viewers. So,
okay.
But like, even SmackDown back then had like a 2.1 rating with like 3 million viewers as well. So both shows were doing over 3 million viewers, and now both shows are consistently under 2.
Do you think WWE will ever drop below 1 million?
Yes, I do think that's the case. I think I would say if we still have the current situation affecting us into next summer, yeah, we will. We'll see the drop below.
Because I've been hearing a lot that a lot of the Raw audience, it's the older fans who just do it out of habit. It's a Monday night, they flip on other TV like they do every week, and just watch Raw. That's kind of your super core audience who do it out of habit. I didn't think the core audience was that small. Like maybe 1.5 million. That's about it.
I think so, yeah, and we're starting to see that as the core audience. Like, and again, we go back to it as it's like they are the 49 plus. They're the terrestrial TV habit watchers, where
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
core demo, like ourselves, we're more inclined to look at stuff on the internet. We'll look at the clips. Like what they lose in their terrestrial TV time, they do get a lot back on YouTube views. So
Yeah.
it's a tale of it's really is a tale of two sides in that sense. There's an incredible amount of there's just an incredible amount of like uh dynamic shift there with that there, and that plays a major part into it all. So I mean, for example, if I was to so if we look at the YouTube channel right now, right? If I just go into like the WWE YouTube channel right now, and I look at the Raw segment, I'll just look at a random Raw segment. There you go. So the Sasha Banks versus Bailey, Sasha Banks and Bailey versus the Kabuki War segment. It's only a 2 minute clip, 2 minute 25 minute clip, 641K views. That's already made up the difference in the views there, if you know what I mean.
I mean, occasionally they have segments that hit several million views.
Yeah. Aleister Black and versus Murphy, 549K. Randy Orton versus R-Truth, 591K. So that's where the difference is being made there. That's where the key demos watching is in that there. Ruby Rat and Bianca Belair segment, 776. That is where your viewership is watching. That's where the key demo is watching it now. They're not watching it on terrestrial TV. They're watching it online, and that it's interesting because that then is interesting because they can now then talk to advertisers more directly for YouTube, because when you're big enough, you can actually have a relationship with advertisers more direct than with a TV show, and they can sell their own ads off the back of these YouTube clips, and that is probably where they're making the money up, and where they'll probably get the money to offset that key demo money is probably there.
Might be, yeah.
So there is something to say for that.
Yeah. Should we wrap this segment up? What do you think?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, to answer the initial question, why are we watching AEW and not WWE? Well, WWE, it's not all bad, but I'd rather watch a show about which I can say, yeah, it's not all good.
Yeah, we want consistency. It's consistency.
Yeah, it's not all good, but most of it is, and that's how I like my entertainment, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd rather be upset at the one bad angle than be happy about the one good angle.
Yeah, that's a better way of phrasing it. Thank you, John.
Not a problem. My apologies if I kind of stepped on your toes on that one.
No. That actually helped bring my point home. So I'm very glad.
Cool. Well, guys, we have nothing else to chat about today. We will obviously see your lovely selves in the next podcast. Of course, you can watch us live if you're watching or if you listen to this on the non-live version. You can check us out on YouTube. Just search up Powerbotch Podcast on YouTube, and you can join us live and in the discussion. We are going live 6:00 UK time, Central Europe time at 7:00 to bring you the most delightful of podcasts of AEW Dynamite reviews, as well as special segments like this where we just went through, and the news. On top of that, guys, if you are watching this on the
and the double dose of athletic girth. Don't forget about that.
A double dose of the athletic girth. Of course, if you are watching live on YouTube, guys, we gotta ask you to hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button too. That helps us out a bunch as well. Is that there? You don't want to miss out on the live show on YouTube as well. What you gotta do? Turn on the little notification bell. But we got you covered as well. We got you so covered. Do you like listening to podcasts? You can catch us on podcast format. Let me tell you, we're on your Deezers, we're on your Spotifys, we're on your iHeartRadios, we're in your Podbean, we're all over the show, anywhere but iTunes because that sucks. But we'll see. But we got you covered, and you can always take us on the go because I know these are long podcasts. You can always take us on the go, guys. We got you covered. But anyway, I'm going to throw it over to Freed before we go, and he'll send us off, guys.
if you want more of us, you can follow John on Twitter at OdinPVG. You can watch his streams live on twitch.tv/itspvg. You can watch me, although I don't stream, at twitch.tv/freed_1. And I hope you come back to watch our lovely, lovely podcast where we talk about wrestling. And isn't that what it's all about?
It is
Wrestling.
indeed, Freed. It is indeed. And I want
So-
to thank you, Freed, for that lovely outro. We're going to see everyone next week, hopefully. Have a good night, guys. Peace.
Peace.